Hello everybody, here we are today continuing on with our playoff previews in the first round matchups between the New York Rangers against the Washington Capitals. So before we start with it, please make sure to subscribe if you're new to me or hockey, whatever the case may be. That being said, let's get on into it. So how did we get here? We got here with the New York Rangers having an incredible season, the best in franchise history with 114 points. They were also able to claim the President's Trophy for the first time since 2015 and are a side looking to win their first Stanley Cup since 1994 and their fifth overall. As for the Washington Capitals, wasn't a perfect year, but hey, guess what? They were able to play meaningful hockey and win down to the final game that they needed to do in order to clinch the postseason ticket. It's not always pretty, but they are one of the 16 teams in the playoff bracket trying to win their second championship in franchise history. This time would be much more unlikely compared to that 2018 squad. And now with these two teams set to face off for the first time in quite a while, we're wondering exactly what could happen here. These two teams met 5 times in the late 2000s, mid 2010s, and it's been quite a while since then. Teams look a lot different, and we are curious to see what are some of the storylines to watch out for in this series after so many years have passed without these two sides clashing in the postseason. So the first storyline here is who else is going to contribute besides Alex Ovechkin. Now, Ovi is somebody that you've probably followed for the course of the season. He is second all-time in NHL history for goals. He had 31 goals this year, had a really hot second half of the season, but it can't just be all him, and you know it's not going to be all just him, as Ovechkin, while I am a fan of him, understand that this was not a great year for him in terms of what he produced. He was not the team's most valuable player, especially in the first half of the season, but they are going to be relying on his goals as a 9-time Rocket winner. However, for a side that has a negative 37 goal differential, which is the worst of any playoff team since 1991, who else do you expect to contribute in order for them to pull off an upset in this series? I think the first name that comes to mind is Dylan Strome. So Strome is the team leader for points with 67 this year. He had 27 goals, which was second on the team. I'm really happy to see the situation that he's in right now. I don't really know if he'd get a lot of the opportunities that he has got with the Capitals where he would have got in other places. I think he's kind of found a nice home in the league where he can get a lot of minutes. He has a good face-off percentage, and he is youngish and somebody that they're just going to have play well in this series if they expect to go out there and win. Again, it's got to be a team effort here. Strome is going to get a decent amount of minutes, and he is somebody that has already got a very, very small amount of playoff experience, but I guess something's better than nothing on a team that lacks a lot of firepower. He's going to have to be one of the key guys in order to get them to the second round. And then you know I got to do it. Sonny Milano, career high 15 goals. Another younger guy that is getting a lot of experience in Washington, where maybe on some other sides he wouldn't get. Heck, a lot of teams wouldn't even sign him at one point, and the Caps seem to be doing something here by getting these players that are a little bit underrated and giving them the opportunities they want. So Sonny may not go out there and have, a 6-goal series, but he could get 2 or 3 goals in this and play a role. Other names you'd expect are more the traditional ones. You're looking at John Carlson, Tom Wilson, TJ Oshie. All these players are going to be expected to go out there and do something considering some of their resumes. And I just am excited to see if they can go out there and help this team. You know that there's going to have to be some other guys that step in here, though, if they want to win. Give me Van Riemsdyk. He has 14 points in 75 games played this year. None of those are goals. We're giving him a goal this year despite the fact he only has 75 shots on the season. He's going to pick up one and hopefully be part of this side that can actually get some offense going after finishing 28th in the league for goals for per 60. I don't know how much they're going to be scoring here, but again, I'm really hoping that a lot of these players that don't really get a lot of recognition are the ones providing those goals. Now, the second storyline is Washington is not as bad as you think they are. Yes, I know the Capitals, the goal differential has been talked about. This is something we haven't seen in over 30 years. They were a side that had no business being a playoff team, other than the fact that the Detroit Red Wings ended up hitting a snag when Dylan Larkin went out of the lineup for like 8 or 9 games, and the Philadelphia Flyers imploded. After their first 49 games, they had 51 points. So it was not going to be a bad year, and they weren't going to finish with a lot less points than what they ended up finishing with, but they were still going to be a side that was going to miss the playoffs yet again with a low 80-ish point total. However, things flipped as the second-ish half of their season, they were able to really get things going as they went 18, 11, and 4. And I know that that's nothing really remarkable there. That is a 33-game span where you're playing at a 99-point pace. But guess what? That's usually good enough to get you at least as a second wildcard spot. And one thing that I'm really happy about here for the Caps is the fact that their power play percentage, which over the course of the season looks kind of rough, is way better than what you'd expect. 13th in the league in that time for power play percentage. And that is going to be a very good indicator of how they could be entering the playoffs. Because at one point in the season, relatively late in the year, they were like dead last, close to dead last, and that's not going to be something where you look at and say, oh, we're expecting them to be a dominant side. The reality is they're not a dominant team. We're aware of that. They're going to play games that are probably going to be boring. They're going to play games that are probably going to be uneventful. They don't have a ton of guys that are going to bring all of that flash. They have players that are getting playing time that you're probably not even super familiar with, but guess what? Them playing that uneventful hockey is something they're okay with. They're okay with keeping these games close to where it's a one-goal game. They have a really good record from what I've seen in one-goal games this season. I couldn't find anything online to give me a definitive stat, but it just seems like every time they're playing in a close game, they do find a way to make things happen. They could care less if it's going to be a game that's 3-2. They know they're probably not going to go out there and beat you 5-0. So while they aren't going to be this dominant side, I don't want people to look at this team and say, oh, they barely squeaked in. While they did, you have to realize what they've done over a 30-plus game stretch and not see them as a side that was the team in mid-February that looked like they're just going to be average at best. Not saying that they're world beaters right now. And then the third talking point is, do the New York Rangers have an ace up their sleeve? Up to this point, we've talked about the Capitals roster, and you're probably expecting me to talk about some players on the Rangers, but we're going to be talking about something different this time. I don't think we've ever done this. We're going to be talking about a coach specifically, that being Peter Laviolette. This man has been a coach a long time in the NHL and has seen a lot of success. He recently coached for the Washington Capitals before parting ways, which cracks me up seeing that in the modern sports world. I don't know if that's always been like that, but parting ways just seems like it was a mutual breakup, when in reality Washington wasn't happy with the fact they didn't make the playoffs. Laviolette ends up leaving and getting a upgrade in New York, which we've talked about being funny, falling up. And for Laviolette, I think the resume kind of speaks for him, where a lot of people talk about all the success that he's seen with some of these teams. But I really am looking at this as more of the fact that he spent multiple seasons with the Washington Capitals. He knows their players because he coached them, and he probably is aware of a lot of their tendencies and has a good idea of what they want to do. On top of that, Spencer Carberry was the AHL coach for them with the Hershey Bears. I don't exactly know how much communication they had. I know that they would have definitely had to have conversations because a lot of the Caps players did know Carberry even before he was the NHL head coach. So you kind of would have to imagine that he is aware of what Carberry likes to do, and they at least had enough communication to see what were pillars of their game and how they felt things were important. And I guess on the flip side here, you could say that Carberry could be inside Laviolette's head as he developed these younger guys, and he could understand this is what the Capitals under Love wanted, and this is how they needed to morph these young guys into the system to make the NHL jump. And I know that this isn't some big analytical thing where we do talk about numbers a lot, but I am just very curious to see if this experienced coach that has won a championship back in 2006 with the Carolina Hurricanes can get his team on another deep run. They had 3 trips in his time to the conference finals, being 1 in the West, I believe, and then 2 in the East. And I'd like to think, too, that again, with him coaching so long in the NHL, he probably is going to have a little bit of an advantage over Carberry. Not really sure exactly what I think of him as a coach just yet, because again, Washington's roster is so far from perfect. The fact that they made the playoffs does impress me quite a bit, because at the beginning of the season I didn't think they would, with a lot of the veterans on the roster and a lot of the drama. So the fact that they were even able to get there impressed me. Give me another season to kind of gauge how I feel about him. But Laviolette probably has that edge in this series, and we are going to watch out for that closely. So overall, what are my thoughts on this series? I think that it is pretty evident that this series does lean heavily in New York's favor, as the standings gap is big right here. Looking at this, there's 23 points in between them. The Rangers are overall just a better side. However, again, I don't want to discredit what the Capitals did, as their power play percentage was nearly 30% over their final 33 games. The Caps have been able to play meaningful hockey. The Rangers have too, again, as they were in the hunt for the President's Trophy. And now you have 2 teams that want to be able to get to the second round, one trying to avoid the trap and the other one trying to be the trap. So with that being said, who am I going to be picking in this series? I will be picking the New York Rangers in 5 games. I know that kind of seems obvious here, but the Rangers are just the better team. The Capitals, I think, have been able to put up a good fight, but it could be coming to an end here, as I do believe they'll be overmatched by this Rangers side that has a lot of really good players, especially looking at Artemi Panarin having a career year, somebody that has played a big role in this turnaround for the Rangers in this time. And I know some people look at this and say every year there's going to be an upset in a series and think this could be the one. I think you could think back to the 2019 first round with the Lightning and the Capitals, the Blue Jackets, but I look at this side for the Rangers and I'm aware that they're probably a little bit less quality than what the 2019 Bolts were, and I know that the Caps this year are probably not as good as the 2019 Blue Jackets, but I still don't know about this. I'm looking at the team in the series, and I think in net things are probably going to be all right for the Rangers, and I just think that the Capitals are going to need Lindgren to drive them. If he has a bad series and he can't, just drag this team on to the next round, I don't know if they're going to get enough goals, and that's really what concerns me. The Rangers have plenty of players that can get a lot of goals for them, and they have more than enough goaltending to be able to get them through to the next round. But I do want to add too, I do think that Washington could win a game here, and I think they could make this painful. I think what could happen is the Rangers go up 3-0 in the series. Everybody's thinking, they're going to sweep them. Next thing you know, the Rangers are excited is late in Game 4. They are in a 3-2 game where the Capitals lead, just for the Caps to be able to get another one-goal win and push the series to 5 games. If they pull it off and they get the upset going, that is going to be really fun to watch out for. But until then, I'm going to wait. So anyway, what are your thoughts on the matchup between the New York Rangers and the Washington Capitals? Are the Rangers going to get back to the second round? Is Washington once again going to make the playoffs just to be knocked out in the first round? Are there going to be any upsets besides possibly this one in the playoffs in the first round especially? Let me know all your thoughts down below in the comments. Also, please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Also, please make sure to check out this playlist for all these other playoff previews. Everybody, please make sure to stay safe. Have a great night. An Eagle of Hockey, all right. Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.